The Second World War had ended, but in Leningrad, hunger still ruled. In this city of ghosts, a boy named Vladimir was born. He was the third son. The first two had died during the siege. The Putins lived in a shared kommunalka, tight walls, thinner meals. As he grew, Vladimir learned one thing: survival had to be earned.
They took my pencil. Next time, I'll break their nose.
He didn't cry. He studied. And he waited. Streets raised him. Discipline transformed him.
Volva! No weakness here. Be strong.
Discipline hardened him. But inside, the hunger remained, hunger for control. He found comfort in order. He feared chaos more than pain.
One day, they'll listen when I speak.
He wasn't loud. He watched, memorized, adapted.
Vladimir, you wrote KGB in your essay about your dream job.
For most, it was fantasy. For him, a blueprint. By 16, he walked with purpose and secrets. He read about intelligence officers, their silence, their loyalty. To control others, you must first master yourself.
I am not the strongest, but I am the most dangerous.
By the time he turned 18, his decision was made. He would join the KGB. But in the USSR, you don't apply to the KGB. They come to you.
We've seen your profile, Vladimir Vladimirovich. We'll be in touch.
So he waited. And while others partied, he sharpened himself. The Soviet machine needed loyal, disciplined minds. Putin was one of them. He studied law, not for justice, but for strategy. In silence, he climbed. And the KGB was watching. By the late 1970s, his call came. Putin joined the ranks of the secret state. And just like that, Vladimir Putin became a ghost in plain sight. Dresden, East Germany, 1985. A divided world. A young KGB officer arrives in silence. Officially, he was a cultural liaison. Unofficially, he watched everything. He studied dissidents, journalists, businessmen, everyone had a file. But the Cold War was crumbling, and the KGB was blind to it. 1989, the wall falls. Angry mobs storm every Soviet building in Dresden. Putin called for backup from Moscow. No one answered.
Moscow is silent. We defend ourselves. That's an order.
They burned sensitive files. Then they waited. That night, Dresden survived. But the empire he served didn't. The Soviet Union collapsed 2 years later. Putin returned to a country he barely recognized. Former spies were now jobless. Putin, too, was adrift. He found work with his old law professor, Anatoly Sobchak, then mayor of Leningrad.
Loyalty and silence. That's what I need. Can I count on you?
Putin was no longer KGB, but he had kept the mindset. He rose fast, deputy mayor, then trusted gatekeeper. Sobchak trusted him with everything, and perhaps that was his mistake. In 1996, Sobchak lost re-election. He was finished. Putin resigned immediately.
Loyalty is everything, even when the world forgets.
But Putin wasn't gone for long. In Moscow, doors were opening for those who knew how to walk in silently. He joined the Presidential Property Directorate, a dull title for a powerful post. 1 year later, he joined the FSB, the successor of the KGB. Full circle. But he didn't just return. He rose. Fast. Unstoppable.
Discipline, order, predictability. Chaos serves no one.
By 1999, Yeltsin was surrounded by chaos, corruption, war, fatigue. He needed someone loyal, clean, invisible.
Vladimir Vladimirovich, I have a job for you.
On August 9, 1999, Vladimir Putin became Prime Minister of Russia. Few Russians even knew who he was. But that was about to change, fast. Then, just weeks later, apartment bombs rocked Moscow.
It was like the earth opened up. We were sleeping, then nothing.
The government blamed Chechen terrorists, but the truth, still debated.
We will pursue the terrorists everywhere, even into the toilet, and we will kill them.
Russians wanted revenge. Putin gave them more.
Show strength. Make them believe you are iron.
Approval ratings soared from obscurity to national savior in weeks. And then the final act of the old guard.
I am resigning. I give Russia to this man, this new face.
Overnight, Putin became acting president of Russia.
The state must be strong. That is what I will give Russia.
Across Russia, people watched in silence, then slowly with hope.
He will protect Russia better than I ever could.
But this was no ordinary transition. He's not just another politician, he's ex-KGB. In the years ahead, they would call him many things, a savior, a tyrant, a ghost. And so began the reign of Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin, from the shadows into power. 1 year earlier, before the war, before the throne, Russia was collapsing. Inflation was soaring. Oligarchs ruled the state. The Kremlin was a crumbling house.
I can't carry this weight anymore.
Boris Yeltsin, weakened by scandals and illness, was searching for a successor. A quiet man from the shadows was rising through the ranks. Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin, ex-KGB, cold, calculating, unknown to most Russians, but he was trusted by the president's inner circle.
Sir, the Duma will revolt again if you name Berezovsky's man.
Yeltsin took a gamble. A man without a power base. As prime minister, Putin faced a test that would define him. Terror struck the heart of Russia.
It sounded like thunder, then silence and screams.
4 apartment bombings in 3 weeks. Hundreds dead. The nation was in fear. Putin promised vengeance.
We will pursue the terrorists everywhere, even into the toilet, and we will kill them.
His words shocked many, but to a frightened Russia, he sounded like strength. Putin didn't just talk tough. He unleashed the army. The Second Chechen War had begun, and this time, it was total.
Orders from Moscow are clear. No mercy, no retreat.
Chechnya was bombarded relentlessly. Cities became graveyards, but Putin's approval soared. He is not afraid. He is doing what Yeltsin couldn't, finishing the war. But wars alone don't make presidents. Putin needed a voice, and he found it in television. The state's control over ORT and NTV gave him more than airtime.
He was quiet, careful. We thought we could manage him.
It gave him the story. They were wrong. Putin wasn't manageable. He was building a new system, and he was the center.
I don't need their money. I need their obedience.
His approval ratings climbed above 70%. Russians saw in him a new hope, firm, decisive, incorruptible. In March 2000, Russians voted. Some out of faith, others out of fear, but most out of fatigue.
The turnout is high. People want stability. They see Putin as a safe bet.
And just like that, the KGB man became president of the Russian Federation by the people's will, or so it seemed.
Russia has risen from its knees. Now we stand tall again.
Once elected, Putin moved fast, too fast for his enemies to regroup. He summoned oligarchs, the men who controlled Russia's riches, and gave them a choice: fall in line or fall apart. Media moguls were next. Channels critical of him were audited, fined, and finally silenced.
We thought it was democracy. It was just an illusion with better PR.
By the end of 2000, Russia wasn't just recovering. It was transforming into something familiar, yet unseen. Putin wasn't just a leader now. He was becoming the system. And behind every decision, every speech, every televised moment was a boy from Leningrad who never forgot the rats in the stairwell.
If you corner the state, it will bite.
In August 2000, during a routine naval exercise in the Barents Sea, the Kursk, Russia's pride, vanished without a trace.
We've lost contact with the Kursk. No response. No signals. She's gone dark.
The submarine had exploded. All 118 men aboard were trapped. Russia held its breath.
They told us nothing. Only that our husbands were missing, but we knew what that meant.
Putin stayed silent. While the crew suffocated beneath the Arctic, the president stayed on holiday.
As families begged for answers, Putin remained unreachable. Everything is under control, the Kremlin insisted.
Days passed, then weeks. The truth surfaced slowly, like wreckage from the deep.
We asked to help. The Russians said no. Politics over lives.
By the time Putin visited the grieving families, it was too late. But his response, cold, mechanical, sent a different message.
The submarine sank. It had all hands aboard. That's all I can say.
The Kursk disaster dented his image, but not for long. What came next was swift, calculated, and ruthless. Russia's billionaires, the oligarchs, had ruled the 1990s. Putin would remind them who really held power.
We've built the economy, not the politicians. They should be thanking us.
In October 2003, Khodorkovsky was arrested. Oil giant Yukos seized. Message delivered.
Every person, even the richest, is equal before the law.
Putin wasn't rebuilding Russia's democracy. He was rebuilding the Russian state around himself.
We finally have stability, a strong leader. The chaos is over.
Chechnya still burned, but Putin needed a symbol of strength. So he found one in Ramzan Kadyrov.
I fight for Russia now. We bring order, Putin's order.
Terrorist attacks continued, but Putin's response grew harsher, more secretive, more ruthless. He rewrote how governors were elected, controlled media, silenced critics. Bit by bit, the chessboard was cleared.
It wasn't censorship. It was national responsibility. That's what they called it.
For many Russians, none of that mattered. Pensions were paid. The streets felt safe again.
I don't care what they say. Under Putin, I eat. I sleep. I am not afraid.
Power was no longer borrowed from the people. It had been taken back by a man from the shadows.
Russia has risen from its knees. We are not the same country you once mocked.
And so began the era of Vladimir Putin, not a reformer, not a savior, but a survivor. Born in poverty, forged in secrecy, raised through chaos, and now undisputed ruler of a fractured empire. But this was only the beginning. His next war would be with the West.